welcome back to my channel. My name is Marta and today we're going to be reviewing A Gathering of Shadows by Schwab. So A Gathering of Shadows is the second part in the Darker Shades series. It's a really good book. I have a review of the first book, and actually most of my opinions on writing style, characters, world development, world building, all of that have stayed the same as what I said in my first review. I am not going to go in depth in this video because it would just be basically repeating everything that I said in the review of the first video. This video I'm going to go more into plot and characters, what I think is going to happen in the future, how I think this will be resolved, some fan theories that I have. So basically, if you want to hear about that, please stay here. If you want to know my opinions on the first book and you want to know my opinions on the writing style, please go and check out my first review. Especially if you have not read this book but have read the first book, go and check out my first review as well. This review is going to contain all the spoilers for this book. If you have not read this book, please go and read it before you continue with this review. And I think that's pretty much it. For non-spoilery people, I cannot go into any detail about this book if you have not read it, so go and read it, come back, and then we can talk about it. So now that all the non-spoilery people have left, the first thing that I want to discuss about this book is the fact that I think that Leah is an Atari, because, hear me out, right? We start with her in a ship and she does her plan and everything, but then we learn that she's learning magic, and we get to freaking page 52, and when I got to this page and I read like her thoughts about what I am, I just literally wrote in my book, Leah is missing an eye, she's an Atari, what the hell, I'm freaking out. And so if we turn to page 52 of the book, right? Leah says, fire licked along the metal and Leah smiled. This she hadn't seen Linus do. The flames spread until they coated the blades from hilt to tip, burning with golden light. This she hadn't seen anyone do. What am I? One of a kind. They said the same thing about Kale, the red messenger, the black-eyed prince, the last Atari. But as she twirled the fire-licked knives in her fingers, But as she twirled her fingers-licked knives... Let's try again. But as she twirled the fire-licked knives in her fingers, she couldn't help but wonder, were they really one of a kind or two? Were they really one of a kind or two? She's a freaking Atari, and she is going to go and save Kale, because Kale is in very deep problems right now. And she is gonna be able to travel between worlds. That's why she could travel to London. That's why she is missing an eye. Her eye was lost. She lost her eye when she was a child. Her black eye was lost. We don't know how. We will probably have an explanation of that in the third book. But she's a freaking Atari, and that's why she can do pretty much any magic. And that's why she could travel and everything. And I did not see this coming, and this is something that was so well built in the first book, that it was so well weaved into the story, that I didn't realize until I got to this sentence and I was like, that's it, she's an Atari. The light bulb went on, and I am just waiting for the third book to see if she's actually an Atari or not. So now we have Leah that's an Atari. We know that though she doesn't know this, or at least I know that. I don't know. Please let me know if you guys figured this out, or this was an eye-opener, or you were just waiting for the third book. But so Leah is an Atari, and basically that explains why she has all of these powers, and she decides that she's gonna participate in the Ascent, which is basically an elemental magic contest that the three big empires that rule this world, that have divided this world, have basically magical Olympics every 3 years, and each empire basically puts in 12 magicians, and these magicians fight each other, and basically one of them wins, and the Ascent takes place in whichever country, whichever empire the person that has won is from. So Leah decides that she is gonna enter the Ascent because obviously she thinks that she is powerful enough to go in, and she basically seriously maims one of the competitors and basically offs him in a ship. And she takes his place because he kind of looks like her. And obviously, she's like, I shouldn't do this, but I should do this, but I shouldn't do this. And then suddenly he has like fire magic and she was like, this is a sign. And basically, she goes into the Ascent and doesn't win, but does quite well. Surprising, especially having an account that she has only known that she has magic for 4 months. And she has been training with Alucard. And Alucard, I love him. I will talk more in depth about him later, but he's basically the captain of the ship. And he has been teaching her how to use magic, and he is very confused as to where she's from. And like basically, this girl came out of nowhere. She doesn't speak any Arnesian. See, I think these words in my head, but then saying them out loud, so hard. Basically, Leela doesn't speak any Arnesian. Let's go with Arnesian. And he's wondering like, where the hell did she come from? And in 4 months, she has been capable of learning this much magic that she actually is able to win against many people in the Ascent. Not against Kale, because Kale basically lets her win, because Kale cannot win. And I just loved how she developed throughout the book, because obviously the book starts 4 months after the first book finishes, and she has been in that ship for a while. And we learn that basically she kills one of the ship's thieves, and that's how she gets into the ship. And Alucard doesn't kill her, instead like takes her in because she's now his best thief. So basically, Leela has been there for a while, and she has only been learning for 4 months. And she has only been there for 4 months, but she's already building relationships with these people. And she is already starting to feel like they're a family. And she has this constant struggle inside of her of, I should leave, I don't want to have a family. Family is problems, you have to live alone. But on the other hand, she also has the struggle of, I like this family, I like these people, I'm gonna miss them, I don't want to leave. And she is constantly fighting between them. And the fact that at the end, she cares so deeply, not only about Kale, because she obviously is kind of in love with Kale, but she cares deeply about Kale, but she also cares about Alucard, and she wants to feel part of the ship. And even though Alucard has basically told her, because of you participating in the Ascent and doing all of these things, I don't want to get in trouble with you, you're not part of my crew anymore, she still wants to be part of that crew. So she has this constant fighting of, okay, it's fine, I'm not part of your crew, I didn't want to be part of your crew anyway. But she also has this conflict where she feels like he's family, and she wants to stay with him and stay as part of the crew because she likes these people. And by the end, she's like, okay, I'm gonna save Kel. And she just admits that she cares about these people deeply, and she has to go and save Kel's ass because he got himself into trouble as always. And basically, she is just prepared to see if it works and hopes that she can travel to White London, even though she doesn't know if it's gonna work. She doesn't know if she can do it. And I think that her character arc is amazing. And I just love Leela. Basically, Leela is amazing. I stand for Leela. I want her and Kel to win together, and I want her to go and save Kel's ass, because she really needs to go and save his ass, basically. So that's all my thoughts about Leela. So now that I've talked a bit about Leela, let's talk a little bit about Kel, because I thought that his character development in this was astounding as well. I liked Kel a lot more in this book than I did in the previous book, especially because I think that we got to see more of his character instead of him just like walking around and being annoyed. So basically, Kel and Rye more have like been really struggling because for 4 months their lives have been intertwined. Basically, he is being held prisoner by the king and queen inadvertently because they are scared that something is going to happen to Kel, and if something happens to Kel, the same thing happens to Rye, and they don't want Rye to die. So basically, they do not let Kel leave the palace most of the time. He has 2 new guards that basically don't leave him alone at any time. And the only alone time that he has is whenever he travels to other Londons, and he's only allowed to basically give the other London the letter. No, he doesn't even travel to other Londons. He just travels to Grey London because he hasn't been back in White London ever since he killed the Danes. So basically, he can only go to Grey London to talk to the king, and then he has to come straight back. And he's not allowed to smuggle anything. He is basically under house arrest. Him and Ray have been going crazy. Kale has been practicing in this place in the castle that is called the Basin against like magical dummies, I'm guessing. The way that I imagined them, right? You know that scene in, what was it? I don't know if it was the Hunger Games or Catching Fire. I think it was the Hunger Games, the first movie. When they're training and Katniss goes into the place to shoot and there's like the big orange dudes that come at her and she has to shoot them. That's how I imagine them, but in black. Like basically figures just coming at Kale and him trying to like kill them or behead them or something of the sort. So he has been training non-stop in the Basin to get himself distracted mostly. Because obviously, like, to be honest, in the situation that we are now with COVID, especially Scotland has been locked down since the 26th of December. We can literally only go out for food shopping. I haven't seen anyone in months. It's been quite hard. So I feel deeply for Kale. Because we are in the same situation, you know, so I think that made me connect with the character quite a bit. So basically, both of them need to let off a little steam. Rai has been trying to get Kel to go out, and Rai is also quite worried, not only about Kel, but about the kingdom, the fact that he's gonna become king at some point, and he wants to be more responsible. He's worried about him dying, because if he dies, Kel is gonna feel the same pain. I don't think that Rai can die. Rai cannot die unless Kel dies, but he's worried about causing Kel pain. Basically, if one gets drunk, the other one gets drunk as well. So they have been going on like this, nights out, and they end up like really, really drunk, and it's just not good. So with the Ascent coming up, basically Ray tells him, Kel, you're gonna participate, and Kel is like, you are crazy, look in what mess we are now, what if your father finds out? Because basically he doesn't want to be more prisoner than he already is, because the parent figures that he has are treating him terribly, and they're being quite abusive of him and quite manipulative, because obviously Kel loves Rai and doesn't want to leave, and it's just causing him to have a lot of like mental health problems. He just needs like a way to like let it all out. So basically Rai comes and tells him that he's gonna participate in the Ascent, and they manage to get him in because basically Rai lies his way into it, and it's amazing to see Kel fighting in the Ascent because he just does it so effortlessly, because obviously he's an Atari, he's one of the most powerful beings in existence, but no one can know that he's an Atari and who he is. So he has to pull back and only use like a certain amount of elements. And I just thought that it was amazing, especially that part where Rai is like, you have to pull out of the contest. And Kel is like, no, I'm doing amazingly well. I don't want to pull out of the contest. Look how much it's been helping me. I am getting to blow off steam, blah, blah, blah. And Rai is like, yeah, but if you win the contest, if you get to like the last 3, you're going to be unmasked. And Kel is like, so he basically like lets Leela win against him. But at the end of the day, the king does find out that it was Kel in the contest. He just like runs away into Grey London and he stays there. He ends up at the 5 points, obviously. And the only way that Rai can think of like making him come back is telling him that he's sorry. So he gets a pin and writes that he's sorry on his arm, and Kel sees it because he feels the sorry that Rai is writing in his arm. And Kel comes back, and basically the first thing that the king does after like parading Kel for a while is arrest him. Even though everyone knows that he's not going to be arrested for a long time, it's just like to scare him. but Kel has lost it. He has had enough of the king, and when the opportunity comes to go and help White London, basically, and for him to like leave, he just takes it without thinking twice, and that is the thing that causes him to basically put everyone in danger, especially Rai, because he just goes to the other London, and the color that Holland has is around his neck, and Rai is dying. And I just feel like we ended up not in the same point that we ended up at this the end of the first book, but like Kel keeps getting into these situations that he doesn't put himself in. No, he didn't put himself in this situation now, but this poor things happen to this guy who basically has a lot of family issues because the people that are supposed to be his parents just find him a possession, so he just keeps making stupid mistakes. And all would be completely okay and all would be fixed if his adoptive parents, just behaved like normal parents. And I just found it so painful that now he is in this terrible situation just because of the situation that he is in, like the family situation that he has. And I just thought that the fact that he has been trying to protect Rai throughout the whole book, and by the end, just because of the situation that the king and queen have put him in, he has gotten himself in a more terrible situation now, and Rai is about to die. And we finish the book with Kel confined in Holland's castle and Rai about to die. And so now that I'm on the subject of Holland, I want to point out how amazingly well written his storyline was. Because throughout this book, right, the way that the book is written, it seems like not much is happening, whereas in reality, there's a lot of stuff happening. You have a lot of character building, you have a lot of like subtle things that Schwab just like kind of like gives you like in between lines. So there's a lot of things that are happening, especially taking into account that the book takes place in like about 10 days or so. Like from the start to the finish is about 10 days if the Ascent is a week. So basically, in between these snippets, we get snippets of Holland. And the first thing that we get is that he's now king of White London. Then we get how he became king of White London. And basically, what Holland has gone and done is, when he was in Black London, he started following this path of like green in a world that was completely black. And he found this being. Now, this being is an Ochon. I don't know how to pronounce it, but that. I will write down what it is. And basically his name is Ascent. And he introduces himself to Holland, and we learn that he's quite a powerful being, and he is the reason that Black London is Black London, and it's like that. And he is basically a bit of magic that has formed its own being, and it's now a live being, but he wasn't born, he was just like created out of magic. Like magic kind of like created it, but he wasn't created by anyone. It's kind of an anomaly that sometimes happens. And basically, Holland made a deal with it, and they are now intertwined together, and he is the reason that Holland is being able to restore White London to its previous power, and basically making it more colorful, and basically reviving White London. Now, Holland is starting to realize that this Ascent dude is basically trying to take over him and transform the world into what Black London was. So White London will be transformed into Black London. And Holland doesn't want that, particularly because they have lived in poverty and misery for basically like all of his life, and probably even longer, and he's tired of it, and he finally wants to revive his world, which duh, everyone would want to do that. But Osaron is like, okay, but you are an Atari, you are the only body that I have that I can actually use. If you want me to leave you, you would have to get me another Atari. But the thing is that, like angels, he needs the permission of that person to possess them. He needs to make a deal. So Holland is like, oh, I have a friend. He's an Atari. I will give you his body. And Osaron is like, okay, but is he gonna allow me to have his body? He's like, yes, I'll milk him. So that's how we end up with Kel in the end in White London, because Holland is basically trying to get Osaron to possess Kel, send Kel back into Red London, and have Red London die so that White London can thrive. And it's just... Because obviously I want White London to thrive, but they are all despicable beings because they have been forced to be despicable and grow up like this because of the situation that they have been born into and the world that they have been born into. But I do still really like Red London, and I don't think anyone from Red London deserves to go through what Black London went through. Especially now we have this necklace that we don't know where the necklace came from. Holland just produced it. And this necklace basically, it seems like sucks your magic out, and that is why Rai is dying. And I just love, like, not only Holland's arc, because I knew that he was alive and I knew that he was gonna come back. And yes, I love the storyline, but also the fact that there's such a conflict of interest, and it's not, we don't have, like, any human being that is being evil. Like, I don't think Holland is evil per se. I don't think Kel is evil. I don't think anyone is evil. It's just like human nature. You want the place that you live in to thrive, and you want to be able to have nice things and enjoy your life. You don't want to basically live in poverty all your life. And the one being that is evil is Osaron, and it's not even that he's evil. It's just like it's in his nature, and I love that. And I want to see how everything wraps up as well. How everything wraps up with Holland, and how everything wraps up with, like, now that Leah is gonna go and save Kel and everything. It's a really interesting setup, and though it seems that not much has happened because it's only like a short amount of time that we have in this book, so much has happened and so many characters have evolved. And I really enjoyed that. Before I forget, I do also want to mention that scene in the dance floor with Kel and Leah, because Leah, for the first time in her life, willingly puts on a dress to impress a guy. And I just love that scene, because especially, right, I'm not gonna go over on a rant of corsets here, because this is a different world. They are allowed to have corsets and different kinds of styles and everything. So I'm guessing that the dressing style is different to Grey London. But basically, Leah goes to see the women that dressed her. I forgot her name. But basically, she goes to see this woman who she went to see at the start to pay her off. And she's like, okay, what can I get for you? And Leah was like, I want a dress. And the woman is like, who are you? What have you done with Leah? And I just love it. So Leah puts on this amazing night sea blue dress. And like, when Kel sees her, he's just like... like, he recognizes her, obviously, but he's just like, who is this? And they end up dancing, and they kiss each other. And Kel kind of asks Leah to stay, and they break off, and Leah is like, no, this is not my life, bye. And I just found it so sad. But like, obviously Leah is gonna go and save him, so we'll see what happens. I do really ship them, but I just found that I loved the kiss, and I loved the dancing, and it's something that had been building up for a while. It was very, very necessary. And yeah, that's all I have to say about the dancing, but I really wanted to put it in here. So that's all my thoughts about this book. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I give this book 5 stars. I absolutely adored it. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give it a thumbs up. Hit the notification bell if you don't want to miss any upload. That is all for me today. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.